I go to flight school. Now I own my own flight school and I'm doing better. I want to be the flight school that I wish I went to. And that's what I do with everything in life.
Wow. That is so incredible. When you got it, what was, I'm really fascinated now to get into like Survivor and Beast games. What made you want to do Survivor? Like, did you come across a casting? Like, what made you think about, you know what, I want to try to do this.
So when Survivor first came out, my daughter was 7 years old. 7 or 8, I'm not sure. And again, like I told you, like this, we didn't have a lot of channels back then. So Survivor was the show to watch, and everybody in the world watched Survivor. We always were. I'm very athletic. I've always been daring. My family's daring. So we were all, my sisters, my father, my cousins, everybody were just like, oh, one day we should all get on Survivor. And I remember I was at the point where I actually even had my daughter like film me doing something, but I never sent it in. Long story short, my daughter ended up getting diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and my world stopped. So like it went from, just normal every day to trying to keep my daughter alive, basically, because if like you don't do her insulin properly, she's dying. So like I sort of forgot about Survivor, and I watched it here and there, but I stopped watching it, and life happens. You just keep moving on. And then um in 2000, I don't remember how long ago, my daughter, we started watching Survivor again. So she was watching from home, I'm watching from home, and she was just like, Mom, Mom, I remember when you always wanted to do that, and maybe you should apply. And in my brain, I'm like, is she cuckoo? Like, no way. But then I was just like, you know what? This is my time to show her that if there's something you want to do, you just got to go for it. Step out of that comfort zone, especially because she walks around with tubes sticking out of her body. She's very insecure, like her life has been tough, with this juvenile diabetes and the pumps and the sensors and everything sticking out of her. So I wanted to show her that, you know what? I'm just going to try. So I said, you know what? I'll do it. So she helped me make my video, and I sent it in, and they called me right then and there, and we started the casting process, and that was it. But I remember thinking, I didn't know if they would want me, but I remember thinking I did my end. So now it's up to the universe. If they like me, they'll call me. If they don't like me, at least I tried, and I showed her that I had the balls to try. Because I
Yeah.
want her to have the balls to try things for her too. Whether she does or not, I don't know if she will, but like I'm trying to be again that person I'm showing by my actions.
Yeah.
So, and that was it. I think I was the perfect token old lady. I was a pilot, flight school owner, and it fell into place nicely. So it worked out really well.
That is so cool. When you first got into Survivor and you got accepted and you were like there, what was that moment like for you? Because that's a really big thing, especially if you're a fan of the show.
Yeah, it was so surreal. I remember, like we went to Ponderosa first, and obviously I was the oldest person there. And, so again, your insecurities creep in because you're just like, okay, here, I'm the old person, but I trained, and I was just like, I knew I was fit. I felt really strong. And, everyone, we're not allowed to speak when you're around Ponderosa. So you sort of smile a little bit and you sort of make little connections. But once we got to the island and they pull us in with the boat, and you get out and you see hundreds of cameras, and they're on cranes, and they're just surrounding you, and Jeff is there saying, welcome like come on in, or whatever it was. And I remember being like, don't ask me a question. Don't ask me a question. Because I was so nervous. I was just like, I never expected it to be the way it was. And then to have, Jeff just start picking for you in the black, what's your name, type thing. And I'm like, please don't ask me a question. I was terrified. And then,
Yeah.
we started our first challenge right then and there, 15 minutes later. So, and we just went full force. So the game began, and that was it. Like it was really incredible. And at the time, even now, like I just prayed for my dad to be with me and to help me and to give me the strength that I needed. And, it's like a weird thing because you could say I've had an abusive childhood and so much pain and, you know, damage done, but in the same breath, you still love them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing. And in the end, like we did have a good relationship because I was trying to be as much of a caregiver as I could while he was suffering. So like, in the end, I did really love him, and it was sad, for him to pass, but I felt he was with me the whole time, and I felt like him being in the place he's at now, he was there with me, and it was the good person, the good father.
Yeah.
But Survivor was incredible. What one of the best experiences, hardest experiences too, that I'll ever. I can't imagine anything harder.
Yeah. To touch on your dad one more time, because that was pretty powerful what you just shared right now. What is a piece of advice you would give when it comes to forgiveness? Because you talk about, the story of your dad, how he had on you during your childhood, and then all the way up to his passing when you were his caregiver. How has forgiveness helped you?
Here's the hard thing is my dad never felt he did anything wrong. So it's really hard to say, I forgive you when they think they're perfect and they're not going to hear it. So I used to always try to like sort of tell him how I was feeling or say this bothered me, and he would just explode. And I was not allowed to ever really express how I felt, my pain that I really had. And this is going to sound weird, but we finally, probably the last 10 years of his life, we became friends again. But he never really knew the damage he caused, because he just thought he was like a narcissist and just thought he was a great person and everybody should love him no matter what. Um, but on his deathbed, he had done something right before the day before he passed, he had done something that was me and my sister were with him. He had done something that was a blast from the past that just opened up, the floodgates. And he ended up being in a coma the next day and, non-responsive or anything. And we were just sitting there sort of waiting for him to die. And I was getting ready, I had to leave. And something inside me, I knew this was the last time I'd ever see him again, and something inside me just let loose. And my goodbyes to my dad were, fuck you, you motherfucker. How could you fucking do this? What you did to my life, I'm gonna cry. Like you fucked me my whole life, and you screwed up my whole life, and how I don't even remember everything I said. I just like mouth vomit. And so my last words as I was walking out the door were fuck you. Um, it was the best thing I ever did in my life. It was so healing because it was the first time in my life that I could say exactly like what I was feeling, because I was just saying, why would you do this? And how could we were your daughters? How could you let this happen to us? How could you do this to us? But I was screaming and crying, and my sister just sat there like, like like she didn't know what to do, but she also understood and agreed with me. But and that was 50 something years of pent up pain and anger, and I released it all.